push it with that. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Like cell phones?
Yeah, cell phones would definitely
Let's wait.
Sorry.
Wait for the mic for the questions. I'll take it around.
So it was asked if a cell phone would qualify, and that would definitely be a qualified disability expense. Yes.
I have a quick question. So my son doesn't receive SSI because we went the child support route instead, which was much more beneficial to him. So would it be purposeful for us to have an ABLE account? Because right now he's just got a bank account that so when he works, the money goes into that bank account. So I guess I was curious as to whether or not an ABLE account was even something that I needed to consider for him. Because as it stands right now, I have to play the game like everybody else does and show his bank statements when we get ready to redetermine every year. And nobody has said anything because we're not benefiting from SSI.
Right.
It's Medicaid, but that's...
So you do not have to be on SSI. You do not have to be on Medicaid to qualify for an ABLE account. As long as your disability meets the definition of the Social Security Administration's definition of being disabled, you can open it up. So for instance, one of my best friends growing up was in a car accident when he was 20. He's in a wheelchair. At some point, right now he can work, he's able to, but he's getting more and more pressure sores, and for him, at some point, he may have to get rid of his estate to be able to qualify because his medical expenses are so much that it may make sense for him now to be able to put money into ABLE. So when he comes to that point when he has to get rid of his assets, or maybe he's depleted, he can still fall back on that ABLE account to have those assets. So you do not have to be receiving services, and things can change where maybe now it doesn't make sense, but down the road it could in that circumstance. So everybody's a little different. It just depends. The other thing is the 100,000 mark. If you go over that amount, SSI is suspended, but Medicaid does not go away. No matter what the value of the account is, they would always receive Medicaid services for that. And I do a lot of presentations for that point where kids are still in school, but they're starting that transition process. And ABLE accounts, an uncle puts money aside, or a grandparent puts a couple thousand aside for the individual, and now they're scrambling, trying to figure out, well, geez, they're over that limit, what am I going to do? An ABLE account can really help alleviate some of those issues by having that. It makes it very accessible for that.
I want to clarify what I've been hearing between the two of you, and then I have a question about where you open the accounts. In this brochure here, it talks about you're eligible if you have entitlement to supplemental security income benefits. So did I understand that you can still open it up even if you have not yet filed for SSI?
That is correct.
Okay.
So the two things. One, the onset of disability needs to occur before age 26. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. The second thing is if they're on SSI as a result of disability or SSDI, they can open up an ABLE account. They don't have to do anything else. If they're not on SSI as a result of, or at all, what they have to do is just go through a self-certification process. And what that means is they go to their doctor, and the doctor signs off and says, yes, this disability meets the definition of being disabled. Okay. They don't need to submit that to us. They just need to have that on file and go annually to renew that and keep that on file. That if the account was ever audited by the IRS, that they'd be able to produce that and say, hey, here's the paperwork on that. I know that you probably don't do enough paperwork or keeping track of things, but that's,
Well, given that, I would like to put out there for all of the parents here who have kids who are still minors, and anyone who watches this later who have disabled kids who are minors, this would be a real asset then, because there's likely going to be a date and time when you may want to file for SSI, and you're going to want to make sure that those assets are under the $2,000 resource limit. And also, if you're like me, I had my parents. There can be grandparents and aunts and uncles out there that wanted to set up accounts that would be for their grandkids. And I had to tell them no.
Right.
And so an ABLE account would be the way to go if you have other family members who would like to provide some assistance to your disabled child. So that would really be a way to go. The other about the accounts, where to open one up, there was a point in time when you had to go out of state if you wanted to open up an account. Can you open these up at any bank now in the state of Colorado?
Good question. So Colorado ABLE joined a group of 16 states plus Washington, D.C., and we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and we also wanted to hit breakpoints. So the more accounts and the more assets that are in there, the cheaper that it can become for the individuals. So we joined a group of states that had already an established product and program. The bank is called Fifth Third Bank, which has more of a Midwest presence, Ohio, Illinois, and even in those states, you cannot walk into one of those banks and say, yeah, I want to open up an ABLE account. You wouldn't be able to. So it is going to be a virtual bank experience. You do get a debit card. You could go to an ATM and pull money out. It's a live checking account, but you're not able to walk in somewhere. It's going to be an electronic relationship where you're going to be sending in checks to it.
If an ABLE account is set up, I'm assuming in the disabled person's name.
That is correct.
Does that then mean that only the disabled person has the right and ability to withdraw because there are capability issues that come with that?
So, and again, ABLE is dealing with all types of disabilities. So if somebody is capable of managing an ABLE account on their own, they can go and either request paper application or sign up online to do that. If they wanted assistance, they can also approve somebody with different levels. If they just wanted somebody to get a statement, a monthly statement, or if they wanted somebody to be able to do transactions on the account, they have different levels of authority that they can grant an individual. If somebody is not capable of managing a financial account on their own, then somebody would have to open it up on behalf of them. The three people that can do that are going to be a parent if somebody's underage, a guardianship paperwork, and if that's not in place or that's not possible, then there's also acting as an agent under the power of attorney. We do have power of attorney forms online. It does need to be notarized. But those are the three things. So somebody could be a rep payee, super helpful, they're great, but they don't have the authority of opening up that account unless they actually have signature authority on the account. They can have a neighbor that's super involved, really helpful, or a grandparent, that's great, but they can't do it unless they have the authority to be able to do it. That doesn't mean that people still can't be taken advantage of on this, but we've tried to put up as much guards against that, and then at that point, hopefully they have a good village to help them if they need help managing that. But yeah, so they can pick the level. If somebody's capable, they can pick the level of what they want somebody to be involved.
Would that include like a trustee?
Could we,
Would that include like a trustee that we have set up already? So if my son had an ABLE account and I'm now gone, everybody's gone, because I'm his legal guardian as well, and he's got $50,000 in that account, he would need 100% help. He cannot do any of this. He's full on, we have to do everything. So would that be something that I need to look at my special needs trust and get changed around a little bit in case somebody's going to have to step in and they're not the legal guardian right away, or they are just a trustee?
And you guys might be able to help. The trustee would have signature authority on that, so they'd be able to.
They could step in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But the ABLE account doesn't have a trustee otherwise on it, but they could have a trustee that could act on behalf.
So that would be like myself, the legal guardian.
Right.
I would be able to oversee his account, and when I'm gone, then the trustees can step in.
Exactly. And then there was another question over here.
I may have missed this, I just wanted to clarify. This can be funded through post-tax or pre-tax dollars?
Okay, so with an ABLE account, it's after-tax money. So it's going to be similar taxation as like a Roth IRA you might be more familiar with. ABLE is the exact same way. So it's after-tax money that's going in to the account. Once it's in the account, it grows tax deferred. And then if it's used for qualified disability expenses, it's also they have tax-free access to it. The other big difference in the 529 world, you could have a grandparent that opens up an account for someone. You could have an aunt that opens up an account for that same person. A parent, all of a sudden this kid's got 3 accounts looking good. In the ABLE world, it's 1 account per person. So you can't have multiple accounts like in the 529 world, but it has the same tax treatment. At this point, the other thing is in the 529 world, in the state, you get a deduction of 4.63% you can deduct on the state level. And then when it's in there, it goes tax deferred. Then when you go to get it, it's tax free as long as it's going to the college. In the 529 world, we don't have that yet. We don't have the deduction. I don't know if we will or not. But there could be recapture by the state if you had a 529, if you set it up for that individual, and you're like, well, I think the ABLE account might make more sense because we could pay for college, or we could also pay for all these other things if need be. And so if we took the money from the ABLE and rolled it over or took the money from the 529 and put it into the ABLE, there could be some recapture on that on the state level, but I don't know for sure.